Hey folks, Holy Grails. Every retro collector has them, whether steeped in controversy, or those holding a special place in one's 8-bit heart, or just one of those truly rare gems uncovered after scouring the internets for an eternity. There's always something to be hunted down. For me, one of those was the C64 conversion of First Samurai, developed by Vivid Image and slated to be published by Imageworks, at least until the collapse of the Mirror Group following Robert Maxwell's death in 1991. In fact, it wouldn't be until late 1992 when Vivid Image would reclaim their rights and allowing them to get it republished. This time through Ubi Soft, who would later publish their 16-bit card-em-up Street Racer. But ultimately, being that the twilight of the 64's commercial era was in progress, it didn't really fly off the shelves. But enough of the history, and onto the action. And in First Samurai, you play the titular samurai who's on a quest for revenge after his master was slain by the villainous Demon King. With his dying breath, your master summons the wizard mage, who teaches you the secrets of magic, and then you're spirited away to the 24th century, where the Demon King has absconded to. On arrival, your first task is to power up your sword. This is done by defeating the wandering enemies through an assortment of punches and kicks. You'll also find an assortment of chests lying about, and with a few quick kicks, you can crack those open, revealing handy items, or more importantly, other weapons to aid you. Axes and knives which travel on a horizontal line through enemies, or the Seeker, which engages enemies from range. As you dispatch them, you will gain mystical energy, and when you've got enough of it, you'll finally get your sword, which along with giving you more offensive abilities, also grants you a second chance, as when your health runs out, your sword is sacrificed in exchange for a small supply of health. Now along with this, those pickups along the map sometimes reveal fruits and other food items, and you can eat those for extra health. Across the game's 10 levels, there's only one objective you need to meet: finding the exit at the end. Along the way, you run into various obstacles. Some of those can be overcome with your natural agility and a bit of mapping action. For the others, well, your old friend the Wizard Mage must be called upon to help out. He can be summoned by finding any of the bells located across the level. Take one to any of the special locations which cause his ghostly visage to appear, then hit space and he'll get to work. Most of these tend to be once-off hazards, except for the main challenge in each level. Finding logs to cross a waterfall in the first stage, or finding water buckets to put out a significantly large fire in the second. At that point, then you have to defeat the traditional end-of-level boss and move on to the next stage. Something I really appreciate here is the structure of level loads. On the whole, loading the game off cassette, which is the copy I own, it doesn't take that long to load the entire game up. But then, when you find out that that's just the first 4 stages, each of which has quite a bit of gameplay to fight through, the need to not have to hit the tape up to reload upon game over is a major relief. Even if you make it onto one of the subsequent loads, you'll only need to restart that load. And more importantly, there's a password system. Once you finish all the levels in a load, the game will give you a password which you could use on next starting the game, saving you quite a bit of replay time when you come back to resuming your quest. Let's talk art. I love the style of the game here. The samurai and enemies are well defined and animated. The levels are expansive and very detailed, and there's even some lovely little effects, like the parallax animations as you walk behind waterfalls. The sounds, however, there's not so much to talk about here. The sound effects are restrained, particularly compared to the 16-bit versions of the games, but they do the job. But what is really missed is the music. The title theme is a great piece, but it's taken from Hammer Fist, a prior Vivid Image release, and knowing that, I think it just loses a bit of the punch as a result, with the presentation resembling that minimal style seen in many 64 games in the late commercial era. Controls, however, they're top notch. You've got a dizzying array of moves that you can pull off just from a classic 8-way joystick and single fire button combination. The controls don't lag, and other than some iffiness when at the edge of a platform, I always felt in control, and I never felt like I was fighting the game to progress. But it has to be said, if I had any complaints, they would really center on the enemy respawning. With the 16-bit versions, enemies are encountered wandering around the levels. With the C64 version, they continually spawn around you. Now that doesn't sound like much to begin with, but I ultimately find it frustrating simply because the game never lets up. You'd think being able to dispatch a decent number of them in quick succession would earn you a small breather, but sadly, that's not the case. Whilst to me this makes a lot of sense from the perspective of trying to make best use of the C64's resources, it just simply isn't fun. Being continually under threat provides poor pacing to me. And when you're trying to perform these other tasks, you'll get damaged anyway. But all up, both the Zap and Commodore format gave this really high marks when I originally reviewed it. And looking back at it now, I think that those may have been a tad high. I still gotta say that First Samurai is a game that is more than worth checking out on your C64. Or emulator if you're one of those types. There's a lot of gameplay here, a lot of challenge, and if you get involved with mapping those levels, you're going to have a lot of fun in trying to make your way to the end. But ultimately, if you want to hunt a real copy down, I wouldn't bother. Focus on the Amiga, Atari ST or DOS releases instead. The only time I found a 64 copy was when I got mine. And well, that's a story for another time. But those 16-bit versions, they're probably less painful to hunt down, be a heck of a lot cheaper in the process. Oh, there we are. Episode 200. It's really been a long ride to get here. I have to admit the last month has been incredibly stressful for me because of real life concerns, my day job, and I hope you enjoy First Samurai for what it is. It was one I wasn't ready to cover for a while, but it was my backup pick this time around. Thank you again to all subscribers. Thanks again for everyone who takes the time out to actually get into deep conversations with me over the stuff I post. Really talking about these old games is so important to keeping their memories around, even the less popular ones. I'm going to be taking a break for a few weeks, partly recharge the batteries, partly start planning for next year. Probably after the new year, I'll have a vlog that sort of talks about channel plans for 2017. I also have a few bits of bonus, a few bonus videos to put up in the meantime. Those are some things that recorded a little while ago, kind of a little different, so maybe hopefully something you'll enjoy. I'm going to take it away, and thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.